Whether you know it or not, you are a media company. Whether you're a solopreneur, whether you're a nonprofit organization, whether you're a CEO of a big Fortune 500 company, you are in the media business. So you want to really think about how you can create content for your target market.
You're an entrepreneur, and you make vital decisions that hopefully blossom into a business. You're the savvy, out-of-the-box risk taker who believes wholeheartedly in the process of innovation. Innovation that will change the world. This is CEO Chat with Gresham Harkless, and you're about to embark on a journey through the awesome world of business. Gresham is the epitome of drive and desire as he works to help support small businesses and entrepreneurship. And you're about to learn from this entrepreneur how you can improve your odds of success in the business world. Welcoming the host of CEO Chat, here's Gresham Harkless.
Hello. This is Gresham Harkless from CBNation.co and Blue 16 Media, and you are now listening to chat number 52, Why You Are a Media Company. And this is a chat that I gave a talk to a group of free agents based out of the Washington, D.C. area, and included solopreneurs and small to medium-sized businesses, organizations. And we talked a lot about how you can take all these different platforms and tools that are out there and create content specifically for your target market. So whether you know it or not, you are a media company. Whether you're a solopreneur, whether you're a nonprofit organization, whether you're a CEO of a big Fortune 500 company, you are in the media business. So you want to really think about how you can create content for your target market. I actually had a one-to-one and a sit down with one of the people in my networking groups, and Ron said, and quoted, that we all have but one sermon to present, but we do it in different ways. And that's essentially kind of like what I'm talking about today. You'll hear me, if you speak with me or talk with me long enough, you'll hear me mention that, we're all in kind of the media business because we're creating content for our target market. Now, we can do that in a lot of different ways. There's blogs, there's Facebook, there's Snapchat, there's other social media platforms, there's a podcast, there's videos and TV. There's a slew of different ways for you to create content for your target market. But I think where most business owners and entrepreneurs and CEOs get lost is that they're so quick to join the next shiny object rather than thinking about their target market, where they're spending time, and then working backwards from there. So if there's one thing you want to take away from this, remember that. Stay in tune with your target market and figure out how to create content that they like so that you can engage with them, and you can also hopefully convert some of them over to your products and services. And if you want to see the perfect example of that, take a look at us at Blue 16 Media. We are a website design and digital marketing company. The way that we connect with entrepreneurs and business owners is through our CB Nation community. So that's creating blog content, and not even us always creating the content. We have guest post opportunities. We have infographics. Obviously we have the podcast where I'm interviewing entrepreneurs and business owners, and it's just a way for me to provide value to the target market that I'm trying to connect with and that we're trying to provide services for. Now, this is definitely to the extreme, but you can use those same principles in your business, whether it's a monthly blog, whether it's a weekly email newsletter that goes out. Think about your target market, think about what they value, and try to provide content so that you are seen as the go-to person when they're thinking about anything related to their business, or maybe it's services around the house that you're going to be the go-to person for. So you really want to drill down and kind of understand that. So I'm going to end this by letting you know that this talk will become a course later on this year. And you can go to sign up for that course at youareamedia.company and check out and sign up when that actually launches. But I want you to keep in mind, again, that you are a media company and enjoy this free agent talk. And definitely feel free to reach out to me if you ever have any questions about anything.
That's just some general information about me, but this is called You Are a Media Company. The idea that I'm going to talk about is basically a lot more strategic about like all the different tools that are out there and ways that you can kind of bring those together to kind of meet your goals. So it's going to be a lot more strategic. I'm going to touch on like some of the parts of social media, some of the different tools out there, but you'll see kind of like what I talk about throughout this. And if anybody has any questions or anything, feel free to jump in. But I already kind of talked a little bit about that, just my background and everything there. Most presentations, I usually start out with me jumping out of this airplane because I was definitely afraid of heights. So I felt like the best way to do it was kind of just jump in and do it. And the reason that I show that during these presentations is because a lot of people, especially with technology, social media, blogging, podcasts, whatever, a lot of people are like so afraid of it that they don't want to be anywhere close to it. So I usually show this just as a reminder to myself and also to everybody else. Like sometimes the best way to kind of start using these different platforms is just to kind of get your hands dirty, jump out and just do it. So, and you'll look like that.
I'm really afraid of spiders and I see no reason to get over it once.
Well, I happen to have, no. But no, it's, yeah. I mean, I usually start out with this too, is that things are changing so fast in business. It used to be that you would go to a storefront, you would buy something from a cash register, and then you would leave and go back home. Nowadays, you can have, milk delivered directly to your door. If you're running a business and you want to get somebody to pay an invoice, you can have them pay directly from your phone right now. So things are just changing so fast. There's so many different things out there. There's so many different tools. And I usually say that, most people are left feeling like that. Like there's just so many different things going on. And that's where I'm going to focus more on digital marketing. And the reason that my company's name is Blue 16 Media is because blue is a calm, peaceful, and tranquil color. 16 actually represents like a changing of the time. So your sweet 16 is actually when you begin to grow up. That's when you begin to take on more responsibility. So like, just like I showed a little bit earlier, like that's a lot of what's happening in the business world where business as usual is not business as usual anymore. And then the media is the idea that every company is your media company. I'll talk a little bit more about that. I usually start out with kind of like an avatar or somebody who might be a typical business owner. I know there's going to be like a mix of different people here. So I just have this kind of general information. So meet Carrie, the entrepreneur. That's the Wall Street, if you've seen the movie. But it's kind of like your general entrepreneur and business owner. So Carrie is 40. He or she is 40 years old, married, a parent of two, very active in his or her community. He's a healthy CEO, so he actually owns a gym. So he has a business in the health, sports, fitness, and wellness industry. Has a website, but isn't able to make updates or changes without a developer. So that's something that he needs help with. He's been in business over 3 years. Worked 10 plus years in the health and wellness industry before actually starting his business. So he has a background and then decides that he wanted to start his business. Loves to network, talk with people, very an outgoing person who wants to grow his business, doesn't know how. He has a team of people and she's really passionate about their profession. So that's just kind of like your typical person that you want to think about. And usually I try to target it to whoever's talking about it, but I knew there was going to be a mix of people here. But that idea is what I want to talk about a little bit more about your avatar. So if I were to sit down with Carrie or anybody in here, the really big thing that I would try to drill home is to take care of these three main questions in the very beginning. Because even before, in my opinion, before you even think about what tools, what social media sites, what keywords for SEO, any of those different things, you really want to drill down and figure out like who's your target market, what resources do you have at your disposal, and then what at the end of the day kind of makes you unique. And I think that what I'll do too, if it's okay, I'll send this out as well so people can get a copy of it. But the reason why your target market is so important is because, but I'll go more in depth with it, but when you start figuring out if, for instance, I'm trying to meet Carrie, I'm trying to connect with Carrie or whoever you guys are trying to connect with, you want to figure out what social media sites they're using, what type of keywords they're using. And each social media site has a specific demographic of what people use and they don't use. So you want to figure that out and get very, very specific on that. And I think that's always an evolving process. So it's not something that you just figure out in one day and then it's over. You're going to always do that market research and kind of learn more and more about your target market. So resources, how much time do you have available and what's your budget? Those are usually questions that I ask in the very beginning because a lot of times you might want to take on some of these things yourself. You might do the blogging yourself. You might do the podcasting yourself, but you want to get an idea of what resources you have to work with. If you have a 9-to-5 job and you're doing something else on the side, then might be more limited to somebody that has a lot of time, not a lot of money. So you want to figure that out before you even have a conversation with somebody. And then what makes you unique? I think that, speaking with somebody like Carrie, you really want to drill down and figure out what makes you unique. So like I give a lot of presentations, especially to real estate agents. And because there's so many real estate agents, because there might be so many people that do what it is that you do, you want to try to work backwards and figure out like what's in your background or what have you accomplished that kind of makes you unique so that you can showcase that online and to kind of cut through the noise and break through the competition. So, and here's 3 things that I know. Carrie is in the media business, creating content for your target market. At the end of the day, once you figure out who exactly you want to target, what you want to try to do is create content for them. So when you answer those 3 specific questions, you're going to figure out what platforms you want to use, what type of blogs are relevant, what type of podcast might be relevant for your target market, because that will help you to kind of connect with them and help you break through the noise. So he's in the media business. And Carrie wants the various ways to generate leads. So anybody who's ever heard, like if you're a millionaire, the typical millionaire has more than one stream of revenue. So you have multiple ways in which you are able to make money. So if something happens to your 9-to-5 job, you have, real estate revenue that's coming in, so on and so forth. So it's the same idea with digital marketing. It kind of pains me because I often hear people say, I get all my business, through word of mouth. And that's obviously a great way to get business and get opportunities. But I think a lot of people look at it as either or rather than both. So you want to be able to generate multiple streams of leads, so to speak. So you're not just getting leads from one way. Of course, you're building relationships. Of course, you might be in a networking group. But in addition to that, maybe you're getting opportunities through social media or online too. So, and then understand it's a process. So I'm going to talk a lot more about the process that it takes. My favorite food to ever eat is sweet potato pie. It's that time of year, Thanksgiving, when I actually get it. So what you want to understand, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, it's a process for your digital marketing as well. It doesn't just happen that you have a sweet potato pie. There's a process that it takes to get to that step. So I'm going to drill down a little bit more about that so you can kind of see. And basically, I broke everything down to a 6-step process. So thinking about your sweet potato pie, it might be a sweet potato pie, it might be apple pie, it might be sugar cookies, whatever it is that you might love. Think about that process and what it takes to get there. So everybody might have something very specific that they do, that they love. And you want to understand that this process is what it takes for your digital marketing as well. So the first step is recipe, understanding your marketing plan and what will you put into it. So just like your favorite dish, you have certain ingredients that you want to put into it. Your marketing strategy, you're going to figure out those specific social media sites, those specific keywords, the way your website's designed, blog, etc. What pieces are you going to put into your marketing strategy? The next is your crust and your foundation. That's your website and your blog, because at the end of the day, what you want to try to do is drive people there. You have your social media sites, and those are great. In order to try to get opportunities coming to you. But the reality is that you don't own those social media sites at all. You don't own Facebook, you don't own Twitter. They own it and they control a lot of the algorithms and a lot of the things. So you want to try to figure out how you can draw people to your website or your blog. Ingredients, again, those are like your digital marketing tools. So you're going to figure out exactly what ingredients you're going to put into it. If you put pumpkin in sweet potato pie, obviously it's not going to turn out well, not what I wanted at least. So you want to figure out exactly what ingredients you want so that you can reach your goals. And then you're going to pick and prepare. You have all the different ingredients. So you actually pick the ones that you want to use and you prepare them so that you're able to kind of execute them. And then you put it in the oven, but you check it on a regular basis just to make sure that it's not burning, make sure everything's going fine. And then at the end of the day, you keep working on it and perfect it, but remember to enjoy it. So I'm going to drill more down on each one of those and touch on a little bit of that. But here's the big thing that a lot of people want to keep in mind. It's a content and advertising funnel. So what you're trying to do at the end of the day is bring in traffic. Those traffic become leads, which are people that might want to do business with you. Those leads become prospects. Those prospects can become customers. The biggest thing to keep in mind is that all traffic is not going to become customers, because you see how it's an inverted pyramid. So a lot of times people think that everybody who likes their Facebook page or even sees them or meets them at a networking group is going to become a client or a customer. And that's just not the case. So often, if a lot of businesses that I work with, they want more customers at the end of the day. They don't think about the fact that they need to increase their activity in order to do that. So this is kind of more of a depiction of that. So you can kind of see the idea that, okay, if I want more clients or more customers, I have to build more traffic and bring in more opportunities. And there's a lot of ways to do that, which I'll kind of touch on. So again, going into each of the 6 steps, your marketing plan. When you first get started, one of the big things that you want to get really clear on is what's your goal. Especially with digital marketing, you can do a lot of different things. You can do it from a branding standpoint. You can generate direct leads and opportunities. You can get sales. You might have an e-commerce site where you want people to actually buy. You might want to just generate those leads or opportunities. So maybe you have a free ebook that people will have when they go to your site. So you want to get really clear on what your goal is so that you can kind of direct exactly what it is that you're doing. And just like I mentioned before, like who are you targeting, understanding your target market. To me, you can't know enough about your target market. So, of course, you might have the age, you might have the gender, but think about location. Think about things that they like to do. So if it's stay-at-home moms, maybe you're creating a certain amount of content around school time, but during the vacation time, you're going to create an entirely different amount of content. So you really want to know your target market front, back, side to side, up and down, all around. And the big thing is that everybody's listening to this radio station, What's in It for Me, WIIFM. So a lot of people, especially in business, they think that the things that they're doing is important to their target market. But in reality, you want to make sure that you really are providing value to them. A lot of people just assume like, I'm great at what I do. I just started this business. I really can help out people. But you want to make sure that you're communicating that to your target market and make sure that it's actually valuable to them as well. So. And then step 2 is getting into the crust, which is your website. These are just some website statistics. Over 44% of people in the United States don't even have a website. 9 out of 10 people are unhappy with their website, and about 85% of people are using online tools to look at their website. I put some tips here. One of the big things, and you see bullet number 2, is mobile responsive. I would tell anybody who's building a website today that you probably want to build it mobile first, and then think about the desktop after that, because people are using their mobile devices at such a high level, and mobile searches are eclipsing a lot higher than desktop searches. So, when you're building a website, definitely think about that. And going back to what I was talking about before, just understanding your budget. So sometimes you may not be able to hire a developer or designer to build your website. So maybe you're going to build it yourself. So there's definitely inexpensive alternatives. So you have Weebly, WordPress. There's 2 different versions of WordPress as well. So there's WordPress.com, which is more of a website builder. WordPress.org is the actual software itself. So it takes a little bit more know-how to do the WordPress.org. GoDaddy, Squarespace, Wix. The big thing to kind of understand about these website builders is that they're kind of limited. There's limitations in what it is that you could do. So again, that's why I said, in the very beginning, just making sure you're very clear on what your goals are. Because if you just want a simple kind of brochure type website, maybe you don't necessarily need all the bells and whistles that you can have with a WordPress website. So you just kind of want to work through that and figure that out. And I'm going to touch on the last point a little bit later, but installing analytics to your website is huge. Google Analytics is completely free. What happens is you get a code and you can embed that code onto your website. And what you get from there is you can actually see how much time people are spending on specific pages on your website. You can see what type of devices they're using. You can see you can see their speed of their website. So the reason that all that's important is because when you start to make changes and figure out what's working and what's not, you can look at your analytics and determine what's working and what's not. You don't just have to kind of shoot blindly in the dark. So analytics is huge just because it helps you to be able to make kind of calculated decisions and strategic decisions. Number 3 is gathering your ingredients, digital marketing tools. So this is going to be the longest section because I'm going to go and touch on like each of these different parts. So feel free to stop me if you have any questions. I'm going to have some examples that include Carrie as well, so you can kind of get some ideas. But if you have ideas or ways that you're using social media and have questions, feel free to definitely ask me. This is probably my favorite quote about social media marketing because traditional marketing and advertising is for people with money and no brains. Social media marketing is for people with brains and no money. And the reason for that is because it's a lot more strategic than traditional marketing. Usually, traditional marketing, you're talking about direct mail, yellow book ads, so to speak, a long time ago when those were relevant. You had to have money in order to advertise. Now you can Facebook ads for less than $20. but you would just want to be very strategic about it. And in Facebook and a lot of other social media sites, you can figure out exactly who to laser target, but you have to make sure you know your target market front, back, side to side, up and down in order to do that. So that's why that's important. With social media, the big part, put this image there, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. People usually say you want to listen twice as much as you speak. You want to do the same thing on social media. A lot of people, like I said, we all think we're great at what it is that we do. And a lot of people will blast their information. I have this sale. I have this deal. I'm great for this. I, me, my, mine. You're always talking about yourself, but you're not actually providing value for the person. So you want to make sure that you figure out what that value is so you can kind of work backwards from there. Some things that I would say is that, you don't have to be on every social media site. Again, I'm going to touch on exactly, why that's important, because once you figure out who your target market is, you figure out what's the most relevant social media site for that. Use pictures, but definitely make sure to mix it up. Pictures and videos are huge. Generally speaking, they do better than anything else on social media. So you want to make sure you do that. There's a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk, and he has this concept of jab, jab, right? He has a book called Jab, Jab, Right Hook. And the idea is you give, and then you ask. So the idea is that, you don't just necessarily do it 3 times, but your give could be a lot of things. It could be public speaking. It could be a free tip or free blog post that you give. So there's a lot of ways that you can give to your target market, and then you might ask for something. And your ask could be for them to buy your product or service. It could be for them to sign up for an event that you're having. So the idea is that you've given so much value to a person that there's no way that I don't want to do business with you or I want to come to support you. So you just want to kind of make sure you understand that philosophy. And like I mentioned, don't just blast out information. You want to make sure you dial into the idea of entertaining, educating, or improving somebody's lives. So again, keep in mind that it might not seem like that, but when somebody reads your social media post, they're taking time out of their day to do something that they could be doing. They could be spending their time in another way. So you want to make sure that you're tapping into one of those things. You're either making them laugh. Maybe it's a funny cat meme or dog meme, or you're educating them. Maybe you understand your target market needs help with whatever issue they're having. So you're providing a lot of value there, or you're just overall improving your lives. So maybe you're helping them save time or do something like that. So keep that in mind. And keep your messaging posts and relevant to the platform. I'm going to touch on, a lot more about each of the social media sites, but the idea is you look at each of the social media platforms as their own language. So you don't want to speak on Facebook as you would speak on Twitter and so on and so forth. This probably is kind of hard to read, but it kind of shows you a lot of the demographics on the specific social media sites. So I guess, do you guys have target markets that you already know of that you're trying to reach? You do want to talk about? Or say who?
Yeah, it's basically training companies or training departments.
Okay.
Who either they're training in-house, so they have clients internally, or are going out and marketing and getting clients.
Okay. So are you using social media already?
LinkedIn and my website.
Yeah. And that's what I was definitely going to say. Like LinkedIn is obviously, because LinkedIn, and I'll show it on the next slide, but definitely it's a lot more corporate. You see it on the very bottom, actually. A lot more corporate based. So if you're trying to target that B2B market,
I've nailed it
yes.
so many times. It's not even funny. I'll go make a friend on the other side of the country. And be like, hey,
Exactly.
And they do. That's the really amazing thing.
Yeah. A lot of people don't even use LinkedIn from that standpoint, because most people are just like kind of collecting connections, but actually building the relationships and doing things like that. It could, again, it's those little small things that can help you, break from the pack. So yeah. I'll definitely say that. Did you have a target market you wanted to talk about?
Oh, mine is nonprofits.
Nonprofits?
So, yeah, and not just training departments. Sometimes nonprofits don't have robust training departments. So, decision makers in nonprofits.
Decision makers in nonprofits. So how are you using social media to kind of find?
A bit. It's growing. And so far the return has been there. It's mostly LinkedIn right now, and a little bit of Twitter. Twitter actually does pretty well when I do it, and I don't always do it. So I know it would do better if I did. Yeah,
it's one of those things where with social media, you just have to have the time in order to dedicate to do it, and that's the difficult thing, because the consistency goes so much farther than anything else with that. But definitely, if you're Twitter, I would say Twitter and definitely LinkedIn are two kind of more business focused type of social media sites. But I'll touch a little bit more on that. Did anybody else have anything else? No. All right. And then, like, generally speaking, I mean, if you're trying to target a younger demographic, you're probably going to be more on like the Snapchat, Instagram. Whereas if sometimes the elephant in the room is Facebook, just because Facebook is, is billions of users. But the also big thing about Facebook is that they're buying up social media sites. So they own Instagram. They tried to buy Snapchat. When they couldn't buy Snapchat, they took Instagram and made it into basically a Snapchat clone, where they took like a lot of those features. So Facebook is kind of hard to ignore, when you're thinking about social media sites, and there's so much data there because everybody's putting all their business on Facebook essentially. So where they went to school, how many kids that they have, because everybody has filled out those profiles that when you're trying to advertise and target them, everybody's information. So it's kind of hard to ignore. And that's why their advertising platform is kind of like one of the best, really.
Isn't Facebook losing a lot of younger people, I guess?
Yeah, definitely. It's so it has the users. It's decreasing as far as the engagement as much, especially for the younger demographic. And they're trying to do a better job of that. But what they're doing as a result is they're trying to buy these more startup social media sites. So Instagram is definitely a lot more younger focused. So them purchasing them is huge because you get access to that information. And then you're linking, when you sign up for Instagram, you can it connects to your business account, but also connects to your profile. So they still have all that data, which you can use if you go through Facebook to target Instagram.
I've been reading up a little bit on Facebook business page. Is that different than regular Facebook? Like I'm on Facebook. No, I don't share my recipe secrets like everybody else does. We're thinking of, as we're putting this business together, we want to set up a Facebook business page.
Yeah. And then, so there's, and I'll touch on that. And this is just more about the demographic, just kind of shows a little bit more about, the different breakdown of each of the different users. This is a little bit more dated than the one I showed you before. But the reason I show this is just so you can kind of see that, hey, if I'm trying to target this specific demographic, I might want to be a little bit more active on this specific social media platform. But to answer your question, so there's basically 3 different ways that you can use Facebook. You have a Facebook page, you have a Facebook group, you have Facebook groups, and there's Facebook profile. In order to do anything on Facebook, you need to have a Facebook profile. So you can do multiple things. If you want to, you can create another Facebook profile if you wanted to do that, if you didn't want your personal. For your business. Well, so it would have your name, but it might be like your business one. Okay. Generally speaking, Facebook is like, it's very hard to keep things separate anyways. So it's very hard to do that because they're really good at figuring out who you know, without you even wanting them to know who you know. So they're really good at that. So if you have a Facebook profile, you want to create a Facebook page. And generally speaking, so the idea organic reach has dramatically decreased, getting close to 0 on Facebook pages. So what that means is if you have 1,000 likes on your Facebook page and you post something, it's gotten a little bit better, but generally speaking, 1,000 likes are not going to see it. It's going to be a lot less than that. So it might be closer to a couple percent, if that. So if you're thinking about 1,000 likes that you have, there might be 50 or so people that actually see your actual post on your.
Let's boil this down.
Okay.
So what you're saying is if my business Facebook page has 1,000 likes and I make a post, those 1,000 people aren't necessarily going to see it. A small percentage of those people. So they may have liked me in the business, but they won't necessarily see the post.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Why?
So I think it's for 2 different reasons. One, first, Facebook is a business, so you can buy their stock. So they're in the business of making money. So they want you to advertise in order to reach those people. But because Facebook is so big as well, they also want to make sure that it's a good user experience for those people that don't have pages. So if I go to Facebook and all I see is, I like 50 pages and all I see is their updates, that's not a good experience for me. I want to see what my friends are doing. So it's a combination of, that, and it's a combination of there being so many business pages now that they have to decrease the amount of people that are seeing pages. So that's something you want to be aware of. And that's one of the reasons why I said like in the very beginning, you want to drive people back to, your website, your blog. You want to think about collecting, kind of the old school way where you're collecting name, email address, phone number, because the idea is that Facebook controls who can see what it is that you want them to see. So even though you paid $1,000 over the past 10 years to get all these likes, you can't necessarily access those people without advertising again. So you just want to kind of keep that in mind. You don't own that platform.
But people can search on Facebook for my company.
Yes.
So they could go out and find me if they wanted to.
Yeah,
Is
absolutely.
another way to do it. Okay.
Yeah, so they have to actually do that. Yeah, but it's another thing you want to kind of keep in mind is, again, thinking about the language and the psychology of these social media sites is why are people on Facebook? More than likely, they're not on it to look for businesses.
Right.
So that's why it's a lot more of a branding tool. And that's one of the big reasons why if you're going to do some type of advertising, you usually want to make a really phenomenal offer. Close to free. Most of the time it's free offers. So it might be an ebook, it might be something free of value that you're going to send to somebody, because I'm looking at dog videos and your ad pops up. What's going to make me want to click and take action? So you got to think about it that way, that you're popping up. Whereas, I'll talk a little bit more about SEO. That's a lot more of a newer age, I should say, type yellow book where people are actually looking for something and they're searching for that specific and you show up. Mm-hmm.
So, is there any rule of thumb on the number of target audiences you can have? So, for me, I have like 3. So, is there, I'm curious to understand.
No, I mean, there's definitely no rule. I would say that sometimes you might have different target markets for specific reasons. So, for instance, like So I personally target, obviously, people that want websites done or anything like that. But I also try to connect with people that are my colleagues or do the exact same thing that I do, because they might have opportunities that they might want to subcontract to me. So I would use more of a LinkedIn, because it's more B2B focused, to connect with people that are in my industry, whereas I might use it more as an advertising platform because I want to connect with people that want to buy. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It does.
That answers.
Does it? Okay.
I was thinking if I was kind of spreading myself too thin.
Yeah, you can. Obviously, you want to try to be as efficient as possible. But I think one of the things about all these different social media sites is you can use each one strategically for whatever your purpose is. Because if you have a very specific purpose to connect with maybe people that are close to you, maybe you're going to use another platform in a specific way, whereas you can use it in a different way. So another example is, going back to Carrie. She creates a weight loss Facebook group. So he or she has a gym. So trying to drive subscriptions, get people to become members, she creates a Facebook group in order to do that. But maybe Carrie can also create a business professional. And I mentioned this on LinkedIn, but maybe she creates a business professional group as well, too, because she wants to connect with people that are within that industry, but are referral partners rather than actual people that would become members. So it's thinking about things strategically like that, how you can kind of draw people in, if that makes sense.
Group is like a discussion group.
Yes. So one of the big things, and another big thing that I want to talk about too, is that, when you have your Facebook, one of the reasons a lot of people are like, why do I even want to use, Facebook business pages? The reason is that you get those analytics. So you can see how many people actually see your posts. But generally speaking, you're probably going to get a larger reach if you share it on your profile. So a lot of people are like, should I share it on my profile or should I share it on my business page? My rule of thumb usually is to try to, if at all possible, share it on your business page post it on your business page and then share it from your business page to your profile so you can still see those analytics, still see that analytics, still see the amount of people that are looking at it. It doesn't perform as well, but it still is better than you posting it on your profile and you're not sure who sees it or who doesn't. So, yeah. Twitter is like a cocktail event. Anytime you go to like a social media, a networking group, you're passing your business card, you're shaking hands, kissing babies, doing things like that. It's one of the most direct platforms that you can use. And one of the reasons it's really good, if you know somebody that you want to meet, you can direct message them or send them a direct message or tweet them directly on Twitter. And, the president is case in point, because one of the things that he's been able to do is not depend upon, different news outlets in order to send his messaging. he directly sends people, everybody directly follows him. So they directly see what he believes about X, Y, and Z. So whether you believe it or not, or you agree with him or not, I marvel at the fact that he's using Twitter in a way in which he can have direct conversation without anybody else having to kind of change his messaging or what he wants to say. So you want to think about it in the exact same way. So if you know a referral partner, if you know somebody that you want to talk to, you can directly connect with them, as you may not be able to do that on Facebook or LinkedIn. So you want to make sure that you use it in that way as a direct conversation. It's huge for searching, and then you can always see like what's trending. Facebook has this as well. Again, this is one of the things that Facebook stole from Twitter and other social media sites, but the idea that you can see exactly what people are talking about, what they're having a conversation about. So when you're thinking about what type of content to create, maybe you're going to ride the wave of one of those trending topics.
How do you find out, like, what is the hashtag that will get you the most views?
You can, so there's trending things on Twitter, but you can actually go through and search specific trending topics as well. Also, if you see somebody post something and there's a hashtag, you can click that hashtag. It's a hyperlink. You can actually see all the people that are talking about it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and you can do that in two different ways because something is trending, it might be so popular that by the time you post something, it's gone. Or you find something that is maybe a little less competitive, and then you can post something and maybe it lasts a little bit longer. And especially for Twitter and definitely for Instagram, you'll kind of see that as well. But you have those your character limits, which might end up changing, but for now.
250 now.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Hashtag
280.
yeah.
Or 280, yeah.
And they've been changing it for a while, because initially, like, little small things like you couldn't, like, the hat or like links were included in your character. So they slowly been moving away from they want you to write more, basically. So it'll be interesting what happens with Twitter, because it'll be interesting. So LinkedIn is a professional networking, is more male dominated. Using connections to make connections. One of the big things that you want to think about too, about all these social media sites, is that, for instance, Twitter, you can have a direct conversation with somebody. Maybe if you connect with somebody on Twitter, maybe you develop that relationship offline, and then you can connect with them on Facebook and develop a more stronger connection, because Facebook is a little bit more private. You have more personal information on there. So think about all these social media sites as a way that you can build connections in different ways, because each of them has a different level of quote unquote privacy. So maybe you can connect with somebody on Twitter or LinkedIn, and then once your relationship grows, it becomes a Facebook relationship, so to speak. One of the big things is to make your profile sticky. So to make sure you complete your profile, put all the places that you work. The reason is that because oftentimes the name of the game is to be found, and all about visibility. So the more information, the more places that you work, the more you tag those companies, the more likely you are to show up when people are searching for specific types of things. And then, of course, you have a way for you to kind of build a rapport with somebody. So, you worked there 2 years ago. I think somebody just mentioned somebody just worked. Yeah, you guys used to work at the same place, stuff like that. If you hadn't known that, but you saw that on LinkedIn account, LinkedIn profile, then you would already know, like, hey, this is a good conversation starter for me. So Carrie creates a fitness professionals and Nova professional group. She uses to connect with potential referral partners. So I mentioned that on Facebook, but of course, LinkedIn is a lot more professional dominated. So you might use that as a way in which you can kind of build those relationships and build those referral partners. They're not actually going to buy from you or become members of her gym, but they're people that can refer people that she wants to try to connect with. Pinterest is great for e-commerce sites. Great if you have an art or craft. Good for posting recipes or food. Definitely more female dominated than any other social media site.
Excuse me, just back to LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can put places where I work, but last 6 years I've been an independent contractor.
Okay.
So I've worked for different agencies and different groups and stuff. Should I list those groups or just put independent contractor, kind of what you did?
I mean, if you don't feel like it's going to take away from you, I would list the actual companies. The reason is because you could actually tag those companies, and it becomes like a search. It's just like a hashtag. It's a hyperlink that people can find you. So if you and I worked at this,
if I did mediation for a certain agency, I should put that agency down, like you did for
If they let you.
Yeah.
If you so you worked as a contractor for
I
them.
was a contractor.
I was when I was a freelancer. A lot of people I worked for who did not want to be revealed.
Yeah, as long as it's okay with them. I would say, if it's okay, then definitely, because again, it increases your visibility. So like if we...
But I don't have to put it. I can just say put contractor.
Yeah. That's what I do for a lot of my old ones.
Yeah.
But I just say major accounting firm or something like that.
Yeah.
Big.
Not say major federal agencies.
Right,
provide.
agencies, yeah. Because
Okay.
a lot of my clients said no, they didn't want to be revealed.
Yeah, if they don't, then of course you don't want to do that. But if they are okay with it, I would say, because say I come to your profile on LinkedIn and I worked at one of the places where you worked at as well, and we're not connected, you will probably connect with me closer because we have some similarities. So if you don't create that as a hyperlink, it won't naturally do that. So you just want to think about things that way. And that's what I mean by making your profile more sticky and improving the visibility of it. But of course, if, the agency or company doesn't want to do it, then you have to play by the rules.
So how would you do that?
So when you create, when you fill out your profile, you actually can link whatever company you work for. And as long as they have like a Facebook page or a LinkedIn page.
Oh, okay. You're just, instead of typing in AstraZeneca, I would actually
like in a description.
And go, oh, look, that's their LinkedIn page. Click. That's who I'm talking about.
Yeah, when you use your title in the company, when you create that kind of resume part of it. So Carrie, every Sunday she provides a new recipe from her meal prep ebook she's planning to launch at the end of the year. So basically what she's doing is she has exactly what it is that she's creating long term, but every week she's basically giving you a sneak peek of some of the recipes of what she's doing, and she's telling you that, hey, I'm coming out with an ebook at the end of the year. So Google Plus or Google My Business, it changes so very, very often. And then and Instagram. Reason that so originally Google Plus was started as a competitor to Facebook and actually looked a lot cooler than what Facebook was initially. But it was only taken seriously because it was owned by Google. Other than that, it never got got as much traction as it could have, I should say. But because Google is, again, really big on search, there's something called Google My Business where you can get a free business account. It's really big for local listings. So if you're trying to show up locally, you definitely want to make sure that you get that free account. And basically what happens is you'll get a postcard sent directly to whatever address you put on there, and then you just have to verify the number. You'll have to go back to your listing and verify that number. And you can actually mask your actual address. So if you have a home-based business, you don't want to share your actual location, you can mask that as well. Make sure that you complete your profile, as with everything. And keep in mind, too, that if you're thinking of doing other things like YouTube, for example, everything is linked with Google for better or for worse. Sometimes it's a headache trying to get things kind of taken care of, but Google has everything pretty much connected. So you have a Google My Business account, then it's usually very easily could be connected to your YouTube account. So you can have all those things kind of seamlessly working together. And like I mentioned, it changes a lot. So Carrie, she created a Google My Business account. She has a local brick and mortar business, so she wants to make sure that she shows up in those local searches when people are searching for gym in that specific area. So Instagram, you want to keep in mind that it's owned by Facebook. It's a great branding tool. You only get one place where you can put an actual link or hyperlink. So what you see a lot of people do is they'll post something and they'll say the link is up in my profile because they change that link on a regular basis. There are some other tools that you can use that actually let you, one's called Linktree, which lets you put multiple links there. But generally speaking, usually you can only have one link there. You can't put a link in the different descriptions for what you're posting. Use as many hashtags as possible. There's a lot of hashtags that you could use. There's a limit, but you want to try to, again, increasing your visibility. Think about all the hashtags that people are might be searching for. And think about it as far as creating short videos. So Carrie records her workouts. She goes live on Instagram to give a sneak preview to introduce some of her referral partners as well too. So because she's doing some other offline things and she has a limit, she uses that as a way to kind of drive people to her YouTube account or whatever it is that she might be doing. And then there's some other social media sites that you can use. There's Snapchat, there's Tumblr, Anchor, SoundCloud. YouTube, a lot of people don't look at it as a social media site. It can be. It can also, I'll touch on it a little bit later, search engine as well. But there's a lot of different kind of tools out there that you can use. Did anybody have any questions about that? No.
Would Meetup be considered one of those?
It could be. It could be considered I would say Meetup is kind of like a hybrid because you create a profile on there. And usually they're linking to, but a lot of people use Meetups, and I'm in a networking group. We use it to basically drive people to our meetings. So it's a really big search engine in and of itself because people go there in Eventbrite just to kind of search for events. So it has that profile, but there's not as much engagement as much as people are searching for events, if that makes sense. So, but no, that's a good point.
Is there any advantage of YouTube versus Vimeo? Or?
Yeah, so usually I say that YouTube is owned by Google, so it's a search engine in itself. So I usually say if people are trying to increase their visibility, I recommend using YouTube. Vimeo to me is a lot more of a professional tool. A lot of people are not necessarily just going to Vimeo to kind of search for stuff. Sometimes it happens organically, but I would think that if you were trying to do something that maybe you wanted people to only go to your website to see, or you were embedding that onto your website, you can use Vimeo. But if you're like, hey, I want everybody in the world to see this, I would recommend using, if you're going to choose one or the other, using YouTube.
Yeah, I was hearing somebody talk about YouTube, and the cool thing about it is you can search. Like if you have a series, maybe your own channel or something like that, you have a series of things that you put up there.
Yeah.
And they can be, you can have a collection.
Exactly. Yeah, you can create a playlist basically. And yeah, so once you watch one video, then it's automatically going to push you towards another one. And then it finds very kind of like type videos that you might be interested in. So it does a really good job at that. And, because, if you sign in, especially, they have all that data there. So they're trying to drive you to spend as much time as possible on YouTube. So.
And the ads are pretty cheap too, like Facebook ads.
Yes, exactly. Because a lot of people aren't using it. So it's kind of like that first mover's advantage where you can kind of take advantage of that. So, yeah. So I'll touch a little bit on email marketing. I usually say that email is still a huge part of the marketing mix. People say that email or B2B, 59% of B2B marketers say email is the most effective channel for generating revenue. The thing that you can use email marketing for is to kind of tie a lot of those things together. So say you have a blog, say you went Facebook Live, you did a blog, you did a LinkedIn post, which I didn't even mention that, but LinkedIn has its own blogging feature natively as well too. Say you did all those different things and everybody's not following you on all 7 different platforms that you just used. Maybe use email to kind of bring it all together. You might do a blog post and then also use an email to kind of say, hey, this is what I did this week, something like that. I usually recommend that as well because a lot of times people don't look at email as a social media site, but to some degree it is because if you're going to start a business and you're going to announce to everybody that you're starting a business, usually you have more email addresses than you have anything else because you haven't built that Facebook page, you haven't built that LinkedIn. So setting up and creating, and you want to ask for permission, so don't just blast people. But you definitely want to make sure that you are using those connections that you have to kind of build your business. So SEO. SEO basically is Google sending out these spiders. What they do is they comb the internet for specific keywords. And they basically return baby robots. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I told you I had a spider. Yeah, I told you I had a spider. You didn't believe me. But yeah, so that's exactly what they do. They comb the internet, but they don't go past the computer, so you don't have anything to worry about. Yes. So a lot of people don't realize there's 3 different ways, generally speaking, to show up on the first page of a Google search. You have your AdWords or your pay-per-click, or it's called search engine marketing. Use a lot of different terms, but basically anytime somebody types in something, you can basically pay for an ad spot to show up for those specific keywords. Organic is where the SEO comes in. So SEO stands for search engine optimization. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but that's essentially the more natural way to show up. But you can still manipulate your website, manipulate your blog posts, and manipulate the things that you're doing to kind of rank higher. And then the places kind of goes back to the Google My Business, where locally, if you're showing up, you're looking for very specific businesses and they're local to your area, you can show up for there. If you have a Google My Business account and it's optimized, meaning like you have, you've posted on it, you're getting reviews, so all those things are kind of going hand in hand. So you can also optimize that aspect.
Basic question maybe. To get the most out of this, should your website be in one of those, WordPress or Wix or Squarespace, or there's no connection? I'm
really big on WordPress, and the reason why is that I'm really big into blogging as well. So WordPress originally was a blogging platform, and then it kind of evolved from that, but it still has a lot of, there's a plugin called Yoast, which is amazing for SEO. And it provides a lot of support naturally. I think Squarespace, if I was to pick one website builder, I would probably pick Squarespace, because I think that's probably a little bit better than everything. But I think generally speaking, WordPress does the best as far as SEO when we're talking about, why you're building a website, if it's to increase your visibility. I think WordPress does it well, but it does take a lot more kind of know-how. I think it's a lower learning curve than most other things, but it's going to be more than Squarespace, because that's just kind of like a website builder.
Do you use Yoast as your plugin?
Yes.
Do you use paid or the free one?
I have both. So I've used the paid for clients, especially like the local aspect of it. But I use mostly the unpaid one.
That's good enough.
Okay. Yeah. So this is a lot of words, but SEO stands for search engine optimization. What you want to think about SEO being is basically if you're going to a new area. So say you're going to Montana. For whatever reason, you have the taste for pizza. You type in pizza in Montana, or you're using your phone so it knows exactly where you are. So you're just typing in pizza places. It's going to show what things are around you in that area, those options that are around you in that area. What a lot of people don't know is you can take your website and optimize it so that you can show up on that first page. And I have one SEO. It's probably the only SEO joke. They say, what's the quickest way to hide a dead body? You put it on the second page of Google, because no one ever goes there. So the idea is, again, that people don't go past the first page. So if you're not on the first page, you don't exist. So
you don't exist.
Yes, exactly. So again, 93% of all buying decisions starts with an online search. 94% of people only clicked on the first page. Less than 6% actually went to the second page and further. Really, the holy grail is the top 3 organically. And I won't touch a little bit too much on this. I can if you guys want to, but there's this idea of the long tail. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that.
Chris Anderson.
Yeah, Chris Anderson wrote about it years ago. And I have a blog post that I wrote where I compare basically Netflix to the long tail, because the idea is that and I'm probably going to go too deep into it, but basically Blockbuster had a limited amount of space, so you had to go to Blockbuster in order to rent movies. Yeah. The thing that made Netflix different is that they didn't have that overhead and they didn't have that space limitation. So you were able to get more specific type of movies. So if you liked werewolves in New York, you can find that very specific movie that focused on that. So the reason that I bring that up is, and of course we know how that story went with Netflix and Blockbuster. The reason that I bring that up is because the long tail is that same concept. So the idea is that while a lot of people might be searching for plumber in Fairfax, Virginia, a lot more people might be searching for what is my LG 200 dryer or how do I fix my LG 200 dryer, because they're trying to figure out exactly how to do that. There's somebody that has a very specific video or blog post that speaks directly to that. It tells you exactly how to fix that. Now, it may seem like, okay, there's one person in the world that does that, but the idea of the long tail is that if you add up all those small searches, it ends up being more than that one person that's looking for the plumber in Fairfax. So the reason I bring all that up is because, when you're thinking about SEO, you're thinking about it's a lot more difficult to show up for those very competitive keywords. But if you think about drilling down and laser focusing on those specific questions that your clients might be asking or questions that you might get during the training, you can create blog posts around that, and you might be the only one that's doing that. So it's not nearly as competitive. So
there's a website that tells the questions that people are asking. It actually puts it out in a mind map.
Yeah, so Google Trends is one. Google has a keyword tool as well. Even if you're not buying ads, you can use the keyword tool to figure out what keywords people are searching for, how competitive it is. It also gives you ideas about other terms, but Google Trends also gives you an idea of like what's trending, what might be trending later on. So it's a good kind of forecasting tool as well. So.
And that's paid?
No, those are all free.
Do you recommend AdWords? Your thoughts, I should say.
It kind of depends. So I actually read something that was pretty interesting where there's a web designer actually, and he was using AdWords. But what he did was he put his pricing there so that he would discourage people to click on it. And the idea is because every time somebody clicks on it, you pay for it. But if you want to attract the right person, you want to discourage people from doing it. So I think if you do it strategically, it can be very good. I'm not as big on advertising. I try to build, if you're thinking more long term, try to build your own kind of platform yourself. But if you need to draw in people, the quickest way to show up on the first page is to do an AdWord. So it kind of just depends. I usually always say if you're going to do some type of mix, you can always transition away from doing ads because once you're paying, you're going to be paying forever. And then you got to realize that if your keyword is that sought after, while it might not be now, tomorrow, it might cost twice as much for you to kind of do those ads. So you just want to kind of think about things like that.
I always get those coupons for $150
Yeah.
off. I'm like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's good to kind of test out things, but I really like that idea where, he put his price right there to say, only click here if you're going to spend this money, essentially. Yeah, so it's a good way to kind of get the right people.
Yeah.
So basically, when the spiders are reading through the website, they're taking into account over 100 factors. So these are just some of them that are important. I put some of those there just because these are kind of the things you can control. No one really knows exactly what the algorithm consists of, but Google and a lot of people give you some information about things you can do to improve it. So little things like having a mobile friendly website, making sure like your title tag and meta description are set up correctly. So these are a lot of things that are a little bit more in the trenches. But creating content, blogging, one of the big things that I would recommend doing too is I see a lot of people that don't blog on their domain. They might get a .wordpress.com site where it'll be like gresham.wordpress.com. You don't want to do that. Spend the $10, $20 to get a domain and have it set up on your own domain or have it attached to your company's website because you get credit for having constantly changing content. So when you're creating content, blogging on a regular basis, it attracts those spiders. You want these spiders, maybe not the other spiders, but you want to attract these spiders. And that, again, provides the opportunity for your website to kind of rank higher. Backlinks are essentially links that are not on your domain going back to your site. Do you have a question?
Do you have one?
Oh, did you go?
So, just going back to that, are you saying to have a WordPress site or not to bring it to your domain?
Okay, I'm sorry. So there's two different versions of WordPress. There's WordPress.com and there's WordPress.org. WordPress.org is essentially software. WordPress.com is kind of like Squarespace. So it's essentially like a website builder. So you're limited in what you can do with it. But what a lot of people do is because they don't necessarily want to spend the money, they'll just set up their free WordPress.com site and they'll have a domain that's like gresham.wordpress.com. And the idea is that when you're blogging and doing all that, you're testing it out and you're like, okay, well, I want to get GreshamHarkless.com now, and I want to transfer my website that was there over to that domain. You have to start all the way over. So all that blogging that you might have did prior to that, you don't get credit for it. So the idea is you want to own, I would say if there's one thing that I would say that a lot of people should definitely do is make sure you own your domain. And even if you have somebody designing your website, I usually say, make sure you own your domain, give them access, but make sure you own that, because a lot of web people are crazy.
Okay, so I think you answered my question. So basically, because we're going to blog on our website. We're going to do stuff on tips, on stuff like that. We're going to blog, weekly, every other week.
Right.
So we should be, what you said is what we should be doing, because if we do buy it and try to move it over, we don't get credit. We
you start out the way
blogging,
and
I don't like to waste time.
So,
well, I mean, I waste time, but I don't like to waste time.
One of the most efficient way to blog, because I remember I used to blog. I had a WordPress site at one point, but I also had I also blogged on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn would automatically ask you if you wanted to put it on Twitter. If you had that, and so that would be like killing
two birds with
one stone. Yeah, but then WordPress was kind of separate. I couldn't get those to link up.
Yeah, I mean, if it's so, there's different plugins you can use, in order to share it directly to. What I usually recommend is because again, you want to own as much of the content as possible. So I usually say if you blog on your specific website, assuming it's a WordPress.org website, your own domain website, you can basically create your blog on that site, and then I would probably repurpose it or reblog it in some degree on LinkedIn. Medium is another blogging platform, and you can repost it and say originally posted here. The reason that I say that is because you always want to try to make sure that you're getting the credit for that. And then when you're blogging on LinkedIn, you don't necessarily own that platform. So again, things can change, tomorrow if they wanted to. So you want to make sure. And it's still on your website. You said it's originally posted here.
Yeah.
So that's why you posted it originally on your blog first.
On the website first.
Oh, that's good, because I have like 1,500 followers on LinkedIn.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, and I think a lot of people, as far as like visibility, that's why I usually say repurpose it or reposting it on those different platforms is a good way to do it. Because if you wrote this awesome blog post and then people aren't necessarily going to your website to do it, maybe you repost it again on LinkedIn, and then in Medium. There's a lot of different kind of like social media. That's the one good thing I will say that WordPress.com does do pretty well. But again, you don't own the platform, so. Kind of just depends.
So related on that, so even if you have a Squarespace site, you can blog there.
Yeah, Squarespace has a blogging capability. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So then I would post it to my website, post the blog to my website, copy the URL, and just paste it into like a quick intro in LinkedIn.
You can, LinkedIn has its own kind of content creation aspect, kind of its own blogging. So I would probably post it in there.
Just copy paste.
Yeah, or you can post some form of it, but make sure you put originally posted here
with the hyperlink.
With the hyperlink. Oh, okay. Yeah, make sure to hyperlink it. I mean, yeah, you can do a lot of things. Like what I'm kind of playing around with LinkedIn too is creating or posting content in different ways. So compiling a lot of those things that I posted in different areas. So it might be a video, it might be an audio, and then a summary of what it is that was a blog post, and then originally posted still here because I still want people to drive back to the site. And then that's also a backlink as well. Creating social media sites and having your domain to your website, that's a backlink. So backlinks are anything that's not on your domain going back to your site. So a lot of people don't think about that, but even having, and one of the big reasons I would say too is that even if you're not going to use these social media sites, even to claim them so that no one else gets them, A, and B, having a link going back to your site is a quality backlink. Those social media sites are really high quality backlinks that a lot of people don't think about. So they'll have a profile, but they don't fill it out and put their website. So little small thing.
Question: does every time you post with your link in it, does that count as a backlink?
Post where?
Like a tweet or a post to LinkedIn or.
So to not generally speaking, but if it's if it's found by the search engine, that specific tweet, then it could potentially be. But I think social media in and of itself is becoming a higher and higher and higher and higher ranking factor. So your activity on that is important as well. And the fact that you are posting on that platform and then your profile is linked to your website, that'll help out. So I hope that makes so much sense. Yes.
Bring the traffic back.
Yes. And like I mentioned, just social media activity, and then reputation. The one big thing to kind of keep in mind is that if you just purchased your domain yesterday, you're not going to have the same reputation as a CNN.com or ESPN.com. So every website kind of has its own kind of a reputation or a page rank, so to speak, where every website, every domain is not equal. This just gives you an idea of like how Google reads their website. They don't see it like you and I do. They see all this code, all this information. That's how they read the website. So that's why, the SEO part is all about kind of spoon feeding Google so that they understand exactly what it is that you're, what they're reading. So remember, be careful who you hire for SEO. All SEOs are not equal. There's good and bad. There's white hat and black hat SEO. Make sure that you show up for keywords that people are searching for. A lot of people want to show up for their company name, which is good, but think about what people might be searching. Again, your target market, what are they searching for? What type of keyword, what type of things are they searching for? What type of blog posts are they searching for? You want to think about that first. SEO is definitely a long-term investment. Be cautious of those that say they're guaranteeing anything. In marketing, there's no guarantees. So be very wary of anybody that says that. Keep in mind that YouTube is the largest second largest search engine behind Google, also owned by Google. So just keep that in mind. Video is huge. And then oftentimes when you're searching through Google, YouTube listings will show up as well. So going back to what we talked about kind of in the beginning, you're picking like some of these kind of ingredients that I just talked about. You're figuring out what are the best, maybe one or two things that you want to focus on. So you're picking, you're preparing it, you're mixing it up. You're putting it in the oven, but you're making sure to check it often. And what that means is making sure you look at your call tracking so you see where people are calling from. You're looking at your Google Analytics so you see what's working, what's not. And then, bless you, make sure to keep working on it, but remember to definitely enjoy the process. And going back to Carrie, it's hard to read, but Carrie has a website that is focused specifically on increasing subscriptions and awareness about the gym. She has a blog on the website with a strong focus on creating synergistic relationships. So she's bringing people on that are good referral partners in order to interview them because they're not competitors, but she wants to help build her authority and also build their authority. So hopefully they can build that relationship. And because he loves to speak, he started a podcast called Scrawny to Brawny, how I took control of my life through fitness. AKA it's the way he is positioning his authority. I heard a lot about, writing a book and doing things to kind of build your platform. So during this, podcast, he tells a story about how he was able to start to love the gym. Talks about different industry trends. So again, kind of building like who he is. He has members of the gym actually come and talk to talk to their experience about joining the gym. So again, it kind of builds his thing. Interviews his referral partners, and he has all his episodes go directly from his blog to his all his social media sites automatically. And then when you go to his website, he has a pop-up that says an ebook that you can download, how to take control of your health and lose that gut in 30 days or less. So I know I went kind of fast and kind of over, but this is my blog. My blog's on my right. The website is on the left. And I'll make sure to send out a copy of this. And this is just my contact information. These are all the different things that I manage. And that's my contact information. And that final link is if you ever want to schedule like a consultation, you go directly to that link and you can set it up. So that's it.
Questions, thoughts, discussion? We have a wealth of knowledge here for us to pick.
Yes.
Do you recommend embedding video clips and so on your website?
Yes. So again, kind of like that repurposing idea. So say you put it on say you create a YouTube channel, you embed it on YouTube because you want to increase your visibility there. From an SEO standpoint, video is huge. So if you take that video from YouTube and embed it into, your website, that's going to, again, attract those spiders. So, yes.
Yeah, I just ventured out on YouTube.
Did you?
Having so much fun.
That's awesome.
What are questions, thoughts?
I have one. So, if you're doing a starter site, what would you recommend? Is it to go to WordPress or to, are there intermediate steps, or you just go the whole hog?
Say that again. Would you
If
just?
you're starting out with your first site,
Mhm.
right? It's like what you said, the fear. I wanted it to be perfect, so there's no site now.
Yeah.
Because I'm still working on perfection.
Right.
So it's like, don't laugh.
Makes a lot of sense.
So I'm like, you could just kind of do a starter site with a Squarespace kind of thing, or just invest in and go for like a WordPress.
I would say I'm a big believer in. There's this book called The Lean Startup by Eric Riles, and he talks a lot about an MVP, which is basically a very quick, low-cost way to kind of test out your idea. So I guess it depends on how confident you are in your idea, your messaging, and things like that. But what you can do is you figure out how not to spend a lot of money, and you test out that idea and make sure that, first of all, your messaging, your service that you're providing or product that you're providing, whatever it is basically very kind of the market has proven that there's value in it, and that you also too want to actually do that. Because I think a lot of people, when they're just starting out, have a lot of different ideas and things that they want to do. So you can very easily do like a one-pager and kind of talk about some of those different things, test out that idea, and then you can invest maybe some of those clients' dollars that you get coming in to kind of have a more robust website. But the one thing I would definitely say is try to not switch. I mean, it's not a crime or anything, but try to keep it on the same domain. So even if, say, you decide to do a Squarespace and later on you want to do WordPress, as long as you have that same domain, all that traction and all that, I compare it to like building a house is for that domain. So if you change to a different address, or a different domain, then you have to start over. So I would say just make sure that you have that domain that you want.
Speaking of domains, hosting services, what do you recommend as the best ones?
It kind of depends. I've used like HostGator. I have a local host that I use too. I don't like GoDaddy. I do not like GoDaddy. I get domains there. I think domains are good there. But their hosting to me and their customer service is not good at all, in my opinion. So yeah.
We're going to weekly.
Okay. For me, like as far as website builders, I like Squarespace more than anything else. If we're going the website builder route, I have some clients that have used Wix and Weebly. So I mean, it kind of depends on like what you want to do at the end of the day. So I think the good thing about website, so you're kind of pretty much getting, I would say like a good middle of the ground in some degree. So if you're not trying to create a full membership site create another Facebook or something like that, maybe you don't need all that functionality. Right. But at the same time you can kind of do some damage if you do get a WordPress website and you don't maintain it and do all those things and it gets hacked and all that stuff. With those...
That's how I lost mine, yeah.
Yeah, so with those website builders, the good thing you don't have to worry about is maintaining that. So that's why, going back to the resources, like, am I going to spend time on this, or do I have money to have somebody maybe maintain that? You have to figure all those things out, because I think you have more of a ceiling with WordPress, but at the same time, that ceiling goes up, but it can also go down. So it just depends on like how you're going to maintain it and things like that.
How does someone hack?
Huh?
What happens when they hack? Like, what do you mean?
So
I'm all nervous now.
Yes. Yeah. So
Very easy.
Yeah.
I have WordPress hosted.
Yeah. So It kind of depends. So there's little things you can do to kind of make sure that your website is less likely to get hacked. One of the things about WordPress is you can go to anybody's domain, and sometimes I'll do this just for fun, is I'll go to a domain and you'll type in WP-admin. If you don't, you can rename that to something else. If you don't rename that, what happens is a lot of people will just crash websites. They'll send basically ways to try to hack the website. And if anybody that has that /WP admin has a WordPress website, they're automatically into your website. So those are little small things you can do. Okay. Yeah. It's
not cool, but cool, you can change it.
You're cool, you know now. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So you can definitely change it. If you remind me, I'll tell you what plugin you can use to do that. But yeah, that your hosting is a big part of it. That's one of the reasons I don't necessarily like GoDaddy as well. Another big thing is making sure that you maintain your website. So what that means is update your plugins, because there's a lot of vulnerabilities that can happen with plugins and the themes as well too. So you want to make sure that you stay on top of that. But I would say probably the biggest thing I would say about any type of hosting is make sure that they have backups and they're doing some type of backups to it, because if things do happen, it's kind of impossible not to, I don't want to say not get hacked, but in this day and age, as you know, with credit cards and everything, there's always some type of vulnerability.
Or crash your own site.
Yeah, that too. That could happen too. So.
Right up the
Right, there you go. So you want to make sure that you have that. WP Engine is another. They're a little bit more expensive, but they're good for website hosting or WordPress hosting.
Well, and one of the things too I've learned is, especially lately, is you got to have a team of people to help you. Yeah. Like calling people like Gresham, or I hired another a writer, editor, or graphics, or there's so many, cost-effective services out there. Yeah, I made the mistake of paying like $5,000 for my first website when I started several years ago, and I used it for like 6 months.
Oh, really?
I learned.
Yeah.
So a team of people that can help you.
Yeah, that's
about really important too is to make sure that you're not dependent on anyone else to help you.
Exactly. That you own the stuff, and like Gresham was saying.
Yeah, and the one thing you want to own is your domain. Even if you don't have everything else, if you have your domain, you can always pull it out and go anywhere else. So,
how important is it to have a good domain, or is it important to have a short domain?
It's a good question. Yeah.
Does it matter really? Or, there are domains that are very lengthy, dashes. It's like a whole story.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. It's the long tail. Yeah.
To stop barking.
Right. Exactly. So definitely, I didn't touch much on that. But again, you can think strategically about the domain as well. So I would say, generally speaking, you want to have as short as possible domain. What a lot of people will do, and what you could do, is if you can put your keywords into your domain. So maybe you use your short domain as a way to forward to that longer domain. And the idea is like, so if I say my website is gwh.com or whatever. So on my business cards, when I meet you, go to gwh.com to see what it is that I'm doing. But my real domain is, alexandriawebdesign.com. A lot longer, obviously. But you can basically set your domain up to forward to that alexandriawebdesign.com. The reason that you want to have that alexandriawebdesign.com in your domain is because those are search terms that people are searching for. Mm-hmm. So strategically, it is going to help increase your visibility by having that domain. But again, if we're going to a networking event, alexandriawebdesign.com may not be too hard, but something like that has dashes and all those things, more than likely people are going to mess it up. So
you have more than one domain then?
You can. So that's why you can have something.
It's not clear to me. Like
the short one acts as a shortcut to the long one.
Yeah, you can forward.
So it's not a second domain.
Yeah.
It's just.
Oh, it is a second.
It is. It's just it in itself has no content.
Yeah.
But you still have to register it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So you have to pay for it.
So you have a short domain, and then you've got the whole story.
Yeah. One points to the other.
And one points to the other.
I did that with my name too, because I wanted to reserve my name. So I had ChristinaEames.com going to quitleapingaround.com until recently when I split that out. But so when people are searching for your name, it comes up too.
I do something similar.
Yeah.
But mine is a landing page because I have two businesses. So one goes to Produce, which is my real business. The other one goes to Road and Rattle, which is more of like a travel business.
It's a real business.
It is actually, it's registered. It's a real business. It's not my primary one. But yeah, so I use mine as a landing page. Really. So people search for my name, that comes up first, and then they can see everything they need.
Yeah, you want to make sure you have a website, because just having the domain, you want to make sure you have like a landing page or something behind it, because if it just forwards, it won't show up in searches.
But it doesn't mean you have to have a domain for what people are searching for.
You don't have to, but I was just saying as a way to increase your visibility if you wanted to do that. But a lot of people, they want to try to, so you got to figure that, you know, if you're going to have a specific name, you're like, for instance, Google, what does Google really mean? You know, it doesn't mean anything. Google has made that word into something. So they have to spend a lot of money, a lot of resources in order to do that. So if you're going to do something that might be a word that no one else knows or something like that, where it doesn't go hand in hand with your service, you have to build the awareness around that. So it costs more. Whereas if you knew exactly what service somebody had, they're going to type that in Google, you know, you're more likely to show up. So
I have another cautionary tale.
okay.
And then my PeraltaAssociates.com, which was my middle name, and that was my domain for many years. I let it lapse. And someone stole it, and they hold it for ransom.
Yes, they do.
If you want to buy it back, then you have to spend $5,000.
I will say
It's like $10 a year to keep them, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But I let it lapse, you know, when I was overseas.
do you know who your registrar are or who you bought it through?
I can't remember now.
I'll say
Not
GoDaddy. GoDaddy's really good thing that they do, especially for domains, is that if it does lapse a little bit, you don't lose it. But I had a client who worked with, I think it was Network Solutions, and it lapsed maybe a day or so, and they had to pay $200-300 it was just ridiculous. And GoDaddy doesn't do that. I don't know if it'll change, but they don't do that today.
How long is it?
For the lapse, not that long.
And when you mean lapse, what do you mean?
So you have your date, your expiration date, and say you forget to go in and manually do it, you can set it up to auto renewal.
Yes, auto renewal.
So pay. If you don't pay, they'll steal it from you.
Yeah,
Well, it's out there for somebody else to take.
Yeah, there's usually a time, but then it goes out to like bidding. So yeah, it's a, and especially if there's sites that show you like that page rank I was talking about. There's sites that show you what's a good website, what's a good domain to have. So you can actually buy those domains for SEO purposes and use those as backlinks to other sites because it has such a high page rank. So if you had it for a while, there's so much that kind of goes into like having a domain as well, as far as like what makes it like relevant. So
my auto renewal.
yeah,
I know,
one thing away.
Because there's a lot of people, that's how they make their living.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
Kidnapping domain names. Yeah, you know, it was a famous tale of in Australia, this person made millions because he bought up all the domains of any company that might come to Australia.
Yeah.
And
You can make a serious one.
Yes, and they all had so they all had to buy him out.
Well, you know, Google actually lapsed or something. I read some story of how Google lapsed, and they purchased it from the person at whatever Google was in binary. So whoever that person was that saw it and bought it ended up making a boatload of money just because it was just a second or so, but they noticed it and he bought it. And they end up paying him in whatever like Google means in binary. Somebody got rich too. But yeah.
Somebody got fired. Someone got fired.
Oh yeah.
You had one job.
You're right.
Any other questions when we have the guru here?
Somebody recommended Bluehost.
Yeah, I've only used Bluehost twice. I've had 2 clients that have had it, so I can't necessarily vouch for it. I haven't had issues with those clients. But yeah, I know that I've used HostGator more than anything else, and I've used WP Engine specifically for WordPress. But yeah.
Any WordPress themes that you recommend?
So there's a site that I use called ThemeForest. What I would say is, a lot of people like love or hate theme forest. A lot of the reason is because you actually do have to do your due diligence. A lot of people see a theme that they like, and it may have been released a week or so ago, and that person, your theme is basically, so on WordPress, your theme is basically like a suit or something.
Theme.
Yeah, so on WordPress and Squarespace and probably all the website builders, you basically have a way that helps you to design the website. So I compare it to like a suit. So you basically figure out exactly how you want your website to look based off of that. It helps reduce time and costs. So we even customize themes for clients. Yeah, exactly. So so on ThemeForest or anything else, what you want to do is make sure that you read the reviews. And I would say, just as a rule of thumb, look at how, look at the actual person that created that theme, see how many themes they've created, see how responsive they are, see how many downloads they are, see the reviews, just all that information. Because what can happen is you have a website that you've had maybe for the last 2 or 3 years, and you don't necessarily want to change your theme, but you're forced to change your theme because there's been no support for it, and it could break your site. Because WordPress is changing regularly. The good and bad of WordPress is that it's changing on a regular basis, so it's adding more and more functionality. But on the bad part is if a theme is not being updated as well, it could not continue to improve itself. So I would say ThemeForest, and if you look at the reviews, you can go through and kind of figure out.
Thank you.
You will.
I really like Thrive themes.
Thrive themes. There's a plugin. There's a couple plugins they have.
Yeah, I have a
page
membership.
Type. But
it's a yearly fee, and then I can use any of their plugins on as many sites as I want.
Yeah, and depending on how robust of a website you want, because Elegant Themes is another one, but ThemeForest has robust themes, so it might be something more than what you need. So Thrive Themes, Elegant Themes is another one. Those are a lot more, you pay a certain amount and then you get this many themes. So it might be a little bit better as well. So I'm glad you brought that up because
it's real easy for someone who doesn't know code.
Yeah.
To a professional website.
Yeah. So Elegant Themes and Thrive Themes.
Okay, so in terms of, you said have the site be mobile friendly. So both WordPress and Squarespace have that as an option.
So Squarespace definitely does, as far as I know. And with WordPress, there's this idea of, so you can add a plugin to your site to add the mobile functionality, but basically from a design standpoint, there's this idea of responsive sites, which basically means the site will automatically respond to whatever screen it's on. So if you're on a cell phone or you're on a iPad, it'll automatically respond. So most current themes that I've seen nowadays are responsive. However, you want to make sure that they are. On ThemeForest, I think it does say that, but usually I double check it because you can literally, you can take I usually, as a rule, I'll take like the browser and just move it over. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but you can move it over and you see it'll adjust automatically. So that's a good way to kind of just test it out. But you want to make sure it's that. And I didn't mention this at all. From an SEO perspective, there's essentially 2 different versions of Google. There's a desktop Google, there's a mobile Google. So if your site is not mobile friendly, you might show up on the desktop, but you may not show up on the mobile device. So you want to understand there's 2 different versions of that as well. Yeah, and there's a I should have stayed connected to the internet. If you there's a Google mobile friendly tool. If you type that into Google, it'll take you to a website and you can literally just put in your domain and see how Google tests your website. They also have something called, if you go to Google and you type in Google, and I'll probably send this out to Google page speed. You can literally see how fast your website is because that's also a very important ranking factor. If you have a slow website, you're less likely to rank well. So, going into blogging, that's why you don't want to take maybe the original image that you took or that you got and post that on the website. You might want to compress that a little bit. And there's some plugins. There's a plugin for everything. It's like there's an app for everything.
Well, that's why I love the Thrive themes because it automatically does all that. And you can actually just change the view on your screen to be mobile, tablet, or desktop
friendly. Yes.
Yeah. Does Thrive
Thrive theme. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mhm.
And you adjust
Whatever.
how it compresses and all that stuff.
Right. Exactly. Yes.
Any other questions? Thoughts?
Super. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
No problem.